Hi, I'm Chef Bernard Pilon. I'm the executive chef at Maryville University for Fresh Ideas Food. I've been chef here for over a year and a half now. So today we're going to tackle a recipe that many think is mysterious or is a little bit odd or difficult to do even. And I'm going to show you how easy it is and how I'm going to take all the glamour out of it, unfortunately, for you and make it all really nice. So it's going to be a mushroom risotto. So risotto is an Italian stew, more so than anything else. And I'm going to do it with some shiitake mushroom and some cremini mushrooms, which are also known as baby shiitake. I'm going to show you a little bit how to cut the mushroom, and then we're going to go on to the risotto and also the onion. So for those of us who cut mushroom, who use mushrooms, and who are a little bit afraid, the first thing is get a good knife, a knife that's sharp, it's very sharp. Dull knives are the ones that cut people. And you can cut this in a few ways. What we're always trying to do, though, is make sure that this is level. So we don't want it rolling around. So if I'm trying to cut like this, this is going to be not very unstable. If I want to make a stability, I will hold it very tightly, and this way it's not rocking around. And trust me, I've seen people, and especially with onions, who I'll tell them this, and they'll grab the onion and we'll make our stability side, and then they'll put it like this and they'll try to cut it like this. Please don't do that, okay? So we can do that like this, and you don't have to go fast. This is not a race. Go at your own speed, and you can slice if you want. If you also don't feel comfortable slicing with the knife close to you, just put this mushroom down flat and cut it one way, turn it around, and cut it 2 or 3 ways this way. So you're still going to get the same result, and it's going to be, just as exciting for you. It depends how you want to go with it. And it's the same with the portobello mushroom, which I've cleaned on the inside. Depending on the length of how you want to do it, just come across and just get some really nice cuts. So for mushroom risotto, which is what I'm going to do today, any variety of mushroom that you want to do is going to be good for you. It depends what you want to go with, the flavor profile that you want coming out of the mushrooms. I think it's a couple of FYIs for me that are important that we never realize is we never taste food before we cook with it, which I think is a mistake. And so we don't know what's going on there. And a lot of times we just don't know how to treat these vegetables properly to maximize their potential ability to heal us in many ways. That said, so we go back to the onion, which we're going to do cubes with. So the proper way to do this is what we call the claw in the industry. And the claw is keeping your fingers tight in, and your knife actually brushes up against your knuckle. And we just want to go down, scissoring a little bit as we go down. And just about 1/2 inch slices as we go across. Again, there's no reason for you to go slow. You're trying to save your fingers. We turn the onion around, and I know you see a lot of chefs who will do this crossways thing. There's no need for it, okay? And anytime I'm putting a knife towards me is a bad thing anyways. So I'm just going to go down, all the way down, all the way across. Going to get as much as I want. I'm not going to do the whole thing because you'll be bored. But you'll see that, they all got cut. There was no reason to go across. So here we are, here we have it, here we have our ingredients. So we're gonna go ahead and make this risotto. So the thing about risotto is a lot of people think you have to pour a little liquid in, wait for it to evaporate, stir, constantly stir, and then put a little bit more liquid in and do the same thing. So it's tedious, it takes a long time. It's the furthest thing from the truth. It has no bearance on the end result of risotto. That's all romance, and romance is good in food, don't get me wrong, when I'm trying to impress somebody. But we're going to take this risotto. So we have our oil, we have our onions, we have our minced garlic that we minced about 10 minutes ago, and we have our arborio rice. So this rice is the rice that is a short grain rice that is most commonly maybe used in risotto. But you can use it in this day and age. I've even made risotto with basmati rice, I'll be honest with you, just because I like the nutty flavor of it. And I know, yes, it's not classical. Who cares anymore? Does anybody really care? Does anybody really drink red wine with meat anymore, or red meat? No, you do whatever you want in this day and age. So risotto begins on the stove. It's nice to have a pot that works, that makes sense, that's going to hold what you need. I like the ones a little wide, and it's a little bit more shallow. We're going to turn on the heat here, and we're going to start it with a little bit of our olive oil. Pouring the olive oil in. Once this heats up just a little bit, I'm going to add my onions. In this case, in this application, and I'll explain to you why with the mushrooms later, I don't want the onions to burn. I don't want them to get too dark. I want them to just sweat, as we say in the industry. And what that means, it's extracting flavor. So onions have a lot of sweetness to them. So I want to extract some of the sweetness to them. So I'll just go ahead and pour my onions. And these are all measured out. I pre-measured all of this. And I know this recipe works because I've done this recipe a gazillion times. So just, if you think it doesn't work, it does, I promise you. So we've got our onions going, and we're going to let them sweat a little bit. Again, it's going to be more of just a little bit of a sizzle. And I'm okay with starting this off a little low on the heat and then just kind of watching it build as I'm watching it now and just watching it maintain. And spreading those onions out a little bit. The one bad habit we always have that we like to do is we like to stir and we like to stir and we like to stir. We don't want to do that in this application or many applications because we want the elements to act the way they're supposed to act and to cook the way they're supposed to cook. So if you see here, what we've got going on is nice cooking, nice heat. I can even turn down the heat a little bit. I think people don't realize that a lot at home, and I've seen that people just keep it on high and then they don't know what to do. Well, you could take your pan off if you think it's getting too hot, and you can turn down the heat a little bit. So I think we're at that point where we're starting to sweat a little bit. And sweating means you'll see the onions get a little bit translucent. I know everybody says that on TV, but it's really true. Then we'll add our garlic to this. And the garlic, the thing about garlic, that we do it afterwards because it'll burn quickly. And burning quickly makes it a little bit more bitter, the garlic. Is that necessarily a bad thing? I tell you, you pull me aside one day, I'll share with you a beautiful secret for a burnt garlic pasta recipe that you'll love me for the rest of your life if you don't already. Okay, so we'll swirl this around. Then we will add our rice. Okay, and we'll add our rice. We'll let that cook for about 10-20 seconds. Just get it coated with all of the oils that are in there. You know, and then we'll add our liquid. And it's as easy as this. We'll add our liquid. We'll cover it. We'll reduce the heat till about low, and we'll let it cook for 20 minutes to 25 minutes. And that's all there is to it. That's all risotto is. It's really that simple. And I know people will scold me and say, no, that's not real risotto. What is it? Trust me, this works just as good as anything else. And the only thing, when you say 20 and 25 minutes with the cooking, is that a lot of the rice that we have out there sometimes will be a little older. And so if it's older, it's drying out, so it has to rehydrate a little bit. And so that sometimes, even though I have 4 quarts of vegetable stock here, it could take a little bit more. You have to watch it maybe after about 15 minutes and take a look at it, because again, sometimes the rice is drier, so you'll have to hydrate a little bit more. So I just pour the whole thing in. I know, shocking to you. I will give it a nice stir, bring it to a boil. You like those flames, don't you? And once it comes to a boil, we're going to cover it, we're going to lower the temperature, and we're going to let it cook for about 20-25 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you how to properly saute your mushrooms so you can add to it. Okay, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you the most important lesson you'll ever learn in your life in cooking. And that is how to saute something properly. So what we're doing when we're sauteing, and I'll always say this more so than anything else, we're building flavor. We're building flavor. And what we want, how we build flavor, it's all chemistry. So what we want to do is, especially if we're doing mushrooms, this is good for most proteins. Okay, and I say that because the protein that does not work when we do this is fish. Fish actually loses flavor as it's cooked. It gains aroma, but it loses flavor. Everything else gains flavor because of the caramelization effect. So what we want to do, and what most people do is, so they'll have this off, they'll put their oil in, and then they'll throw all the ingredients, and then they'll throw on their flame. And some people now realize that, no, we got to heat the pan up first, but they don't know why they're doing it, okay? And they also don't know how hot to get it. So we want to build up enough heat in there that when we put in our oil, and then we put in our elements, it begins to sizzle right away. Why? Because if it's cold, and I put in my oil and I put in my ingredients, my oil hasn't heated up enough before it starts breaking down and the elements will not be able to sear off properly, and they won't be able to build the flavor that you want. Can you do it? Of course, do whatever you want in your kitchen. You're not doing it in my kitchen. So always have a little bit of cold water. So when we have a little cold water, it immediately evaporates. As soon as it evaporates, add your oil. As soon as that you've added your oil, add your elements. And you can see right away, if you've added your whatever element is you have here, and it has started to sizzle immediately, you know you've done it perfectly. So you can see this and you can hear it at the same time. So I've got all of my mushrooms going in here. Okay, I've got all my elements going. I'll check on my risotto here, which is boiling now, so I'm going to lower the temperature. And again, here's another one of those things. All I want to do is stir this, right? Stir and stir and stir. Well, if you stir, you're bringing down the temperature. And we all know that. No, we've seen enough cooking shows in our lives to know that we bring down the temperature and we don't get the sear that we want. And this poor mushroom, that's such a beautiful element, is probably one of the most mistreated vegetables out there, because we do all sorts of things to it. We don't let it get the caramelization on the outside. We don't let it build its flavor. And with the beautiful mushrooms we have, and especially here in the state of Missouri with morel hunting and all that, it behooves you to learn this technique properly, I guess, if you will. Okay? So again, I'm talking and I'm diverting you. I'm like a magician, right? I'm trying to play, that kind of card where now you see it, now you don't. And I'm trying to avoid having you come over and stir this. I've taught so many cooking classes where I go around every student that, stop stirring, don't stir. And they're all there like this, and they're all ready to go. Notice I haven't even touched that yet. I can look at my risotto, see that it's coming along beautifully. And so once I'm a couple of minutes deep in here or so, I can look at one or two of them and see if we've actually accomplished what we've accomplished, which is this nice brownness on the outside and this nice caramelization. And then maybe we can attempt a little stir and see how we're doing. And you can see some of these, how they're nicely caramelizing on the outside. And I can show you, if you come at me, I can show you how to do this, because everybody wants to learn how to do that, right? 46,000 years of practice, and you're doing all right. Got a good joke on that but I'll tell you later. Okay, so here we go. So we're letting that build itself. It's cooking. We don't need to touch it any longer. We're just going to wait for the risotto rice to be cooked. Nothing wrong with actually just looking at it and making sure it's where you want it to be. And it's probably got another 10 to 12 minutes from what I can see, what I can judge from it. The heat is good. We'll turn off the mushrooms for now. Give it a little shake. Make sure it's where we want it to be. If you were here, you could smell everything. Sorry, we can't do that right now. And I'm looking at this, watching it. It's starting to absorb all the water nicely, and we're going to leave it out. The other thing that, and I hate to say it, and I'm not going to put the onus, but what we usually tend to think of as a risotto is this plate of rice that's a little thick. Risotto should be like porridge. It should be loose. Okay, it's a stew. And here in America, and there's nothing wrong with that, we've become accustomed to it. I think not being that way, and we see it that way, and we find it unpleasant. So I'm just letting you know that this one will probably be a little bit looser than you're used to. And this is just the way that I've been taught. My first chef was Italian, and he taught me a lot of the classic Italian dishes, I think the right way, hopefully. So we'll wait on that. So we're ready to finish off our risotto. It's finished off beautifully here. This is how it should be. Notice I did not stir it. I know you didn't see all of it, but I definitely did not stir it. You can finish off with a little bit of Parmesan cheese if you want. You can put it a little bit in, a little bit on top. And some people do butter as well, and also a vegetable oil, or rather an herb oil, if you will. But this is basically what it's going to look like. I'd like to add a little bit of all the mushrooms to it with the juice and everything. Look how beautiful that looks already. So here you go. Here you have it, and you can incorporate that all together. Don't forget, there's no limit to your imagination what you can do in a risotto. I can do this with spinach. I can do this with asparagus. I can do it with all three of the above. I can just make it like this and throw a nice piece of salmon on top of it. I've actually done it where I've tossed salmon into the risotto. So whatever it is you want to accomplish. See, it's got nice and sticky. It's beautiful. It's kind of porridgey. I'm doing it as a big dish that I would then garnish a little bit and then serve, you know, as either as a side dish, let people get it themselves. So we've got this beautiful mound of risotto. It's pretty gorgeous. I finish it off with a little bit of some greens on top of it. And I did a little bit of herb oil that I'm going to put around it. So herb oil. So FYI on the herb oil, if you make it, it's very simple. You blanch a little bit off, which means you bring water to a boil, put the herbs in it for about 15 seconds. This is mostly all basil. Put in some ice water, then put it in your blender and start pouring in a little bit of olive oil and blend it all together. You get this beautiful herb oil. And this is not for color. I don't do anything for color. I don't do anything. I do it because it makes sense. And kind of a little trade secret to make your oil a little greener. Chefs will often add a little bit of spinach in there, and that makes it a lot greener. Don't use food coloring. And then we're going to put that a little bit around. And again, this is just going to enhance everything in terms of flavor, more so than anything else. So look how beautiful that turns out. So this looks so darn good that, I'm sorry, before you go, I really got to try this because I just can't leave this. So I'm going to demask for just a second here. We're all social distancing. We're all good. And just taste it. Amazing. Amazing.